Good day, everybody. This is Yin Yang in California, and I'm reading to you right now from Cavin Ballister's book. Cavin Balaster wrote How to Feed a Brain, Nutrition for Optimal Brain Function and Repair. And let's see, after sustaining a severe TBI that left him comatose with less than a 10% chance of regaining consciousness beyond a vegetative state, Kevin has devoted years to researching and connecting with doctors, nutritionists, researchers, professors, practitioners, neuroscientists, and more. That's how he gets a hold of. How to Feed a Brain is the culmination of the nutritional tools that he has learned through this journey. I always wonder about how long it took him, you know. I didn't ask him that, but I'm going to read to you from page 114. Um, Page 114 is, excuse me. Oh my God, it's close to the end of my day. No. Is a blenderized gastric diet appropriate? I'm skipping page 113 because on page 113, I can barely read it because normally when I wear contact lenses, I can't read this little space, this little font. Um, I mean, it's 4-point font, which is good. Ooh, 3-point font, actually. Cool. That could actually be 2-point font right there. Anyway, gastric tube feed creation instructions on Feed a Brain. You can purchase a Feed a Brain approved. You can purchase Feed a Brain approved gastric feeds at feedabrain.com/feeds. Okay. And he's got lots of things like ingredients, carbs, proteins, fat, directions. Okay, that was page 113. I will expect you to look it up or purchase the book and be able to find out what he says because it's a lot in there. And it'll probably not quite get any point across for somebody who is looking at the bigger picture versus a particular set of gastric feeds. Is a blenderized gastric diet appropriate? How do you determine if you or your loved one is a candidate for a blenderized gastric diet? The first thing that must be considered is whether the patient is medically approved to receive bolus feeds. Now, what does the word bolus mean again? BOLUS. Bolus, bolus, bolus. I remember that. I remember that. What did he say about that? Bolus, BOLUS meant something. Uh, Okay. Anyway, in order for the feeds suggested in this guide to be used, the patient must be approved for bolus gastric feeds or feeds in which the amount of food that would be consumed in a meal is fed through a gastric tube over the course of a few minutes, as opposed to a continuous feed where a small amount is trickled into the patient's stomach over hours. Bolus feeding is only appropriate with a gastronomy G tube, such as a PEG tube or NG tube. Both of these tubes feed into the stomach and is not appropriate for a jejunostomy or J tube, a tube that feeds into the small intestine. If bolus feeding is approved, then we can move on to the other important considerations. Is someone available to support and guide this kind of feeding? Is someone motivated and willing to commit the time to prepare the foods or to order powdered or real food meal replacement drinks? These meals can be found at feedabrain.com/feeds. Are refrigeration, the use of a heavy duty blender, airtight storage containers, and ingredients, if applicable, accessible to you. Many of these items can be found at feedabrain.com/tools. Making the request. After thinking of all the above considerations, patients and loved ones should seek medical permission. In a hospital setting, you will need the approval of the hospital and cooperation of the staff to implement these practices. While this may be frustrating, hospital resistance to this kind of feeding may be overcome by creating a partnership with the healthcare team. Approach your loved one's healthcare team with compassion and a desire to partner for the patient's well being. Personalize the patient and become aligned with the healthcare team. Find out who the dietitian is and try to make friends. If you don't have access to the dietitian, find someone on your loved one's healthcare team who seems to be compassionate and express to them why your loved one matters to you. Once you have created more interest in the person who is receiving the gastric feed, you can tell the healthcare professional what you have learned from this book and what concerns you have. After all, at the end of the day, you all share the same goal for the patient to get better. You can tell the dietitian or other healthcare provider what you like to do for your loved one and why. As the conversation proceeds, you will be ready to present this clinician letter, feedabrain.com/clinician letter, one word, and the Feedabrain approved gastric feeds, feedabrain.com/feeds. If more resources are needed, you can provide the gastric tube feed creation instructions, capital G, capital T, capital F, capital C, capital I. The two above articles concerning blenderized tube feeds, feedabrain.com/gastric, and or the research regarding omega-3s, feedabrain.com/omega. Show that you are willing to put in the effort and ask if implementation of these guidelines is a realistic option. Don't expect an immediate answer, but ask them to look it over so you may discuss it the next day. You may be too busy to prepare these meals every day, which is why we are providing the option for Feed-A-Brain approved meal replacements to be used in a gastric feed. Some of these other options, which we believe are far superior to the conventional formulas that are usually administered, can be found at feedabrain.com/feeds. Remember that food is either helpful or harmful to us. The guidelines outlined illustrate exactly how we can feed the cells in our brains and bodies and how we can take care of ourselves so that they can take care of us. I wrote the next two sections. This is Cavin Balaster. I wrote the next two sections for clinicians on your loved one's healthcare team who have shown compassion for your request. You can get the printable version of the letter to clinicians, with citations at feedabrain.com/clinician letter. And then there are gastric feed considerations for clinicians. And more on this soon rather than later. Considerations for determining if blenderized tube feeding is appropriate. And he's got a total flow chart here. This is a really cool flow chart. And it says patient, parent requests blenderized feed. Patient is at least 6 months old. Tube is a gastrostomy tube, not jejunostomy tube. Tube is greater than 14 in 14 French in diameter. Patient does not Patient does not require continuous feed. Patient is not on a fluid restriction less than 30 ounces per day. Patient does not have severe volume limitations, e.g., delayed gastric emptying. Patient does not have multiple food allergies. Family has adequate financial material resources, e.g., blender, refrigeration, etc. Family displays time, motivation, and understanding of commitment required. Registered dietitian is available for oversight, and blenderized food by gastrostomy tube is appropriate. That's the bottom line. Blenderized food by gastrostomy tube is appropriate. So, gastric feed considerations for clinicians is where we'll begin next time. And I will put the book down with a pencil marking, and then I will say, we've read this part here. Okay. All right. So I will talk to you again later. You take it easy. Take care. This was Independence Day in the United States of America. It is currently a little after 9 p.m. my time, which means that in New York City, it is really the height of the, if not over already, 11:10. Probably Probably most shows are over. Yeah, probably most shows have been over since about 7:30. So for about half an hour already in New York. But I think they're probably still going on in the Central Time Zone, Mountain Time Zone, and our time zone, and Alaska time zone, and Hawaii time zone, etc. All right. Well, happy Independence Day. Now remember, America 250 was established by Congress many years ago. There are different organizations other than America 250 as well. But we all know that Congress established this with some foresight in mind, and our tax dollars have gone into America 250 as well. Okay? Old Kinderheck.